Before we get into my day of fasting, I do want to give this word of warning. Fasting is a dangerous thing if you are taking insulin or diabetic meds. So if you're in either one of those categories, insulin or diabetic meds, you better just lay off the fasting. You can watch and see how it works for me, but you shouldn't do it. I don't take insulin. I have never taken insulin or diabetic meds. And I have found by experience it works for me. But if you are taking insulin or the meds, you could go into a hypoglycemic episode. Your blood sugar could drop dangerously low, and that is not good. So first, work your way off the insulin or the meds if you can, and with your doctor's permission, and then you can think about fasting. Well, good morning, and I am inviting you to go with me in a 36-hour period of fasting. It is 6:14 a.m. here in Texas on a Monday morning, and the last meal I ate was last evening on Sunday. I think I started around 7:10, a little after 7, and finished around 7:25. So I haven't eaten since then and don't plan to eat until tomorrow morning. So this day, Monday, is going to be a day of fasting, along with the fact that I didn't have any snack last evening and won't eat until tomorrow morning. So go with me and let's see what kind of blood sugar numbers I get. In the old days when I depended totally on Mike, the glucose meter, the one that you stab yourself with, I would always be in a hurry to test my glucose when I woke up because I figured that dawn effect is going to kick in once I wake up. And so if I want the lowest possible number, I will test myself immediately. But now I don't have to worry about that because with Charlie, the CGM, and the app on my phone, I can look at any time I want. I can see what was my glucose when I woke up at 5:15. I can go back before that. And one of the things I do these days is I like to check on the previous night. I like to see what went on, and it's kind of fascinating to me. I find out my blood sugar is much more fluid than I assumed it would be at night. And so my CGM tells me that even as I sleep throughout the night, it's kind of moving around here and there, sometimes going quite low for me. And a couple of times since I've been using this CGM, it's actually gone below 70, and the CGM will only read to 70. And it'll only read up to 250 on the other end. So once you go beyond 250 milligrams per deciliter, it'll just say higher than 250. And if you go below 70, it'll say lower than. So let's check out where I've been tonight. I'll take a picture of this. It's been rising since around 5:12. Well, that's about the time I woke up. So had I tested myself when I woke up, I would have had in the 80s, about an 80, as low as 84 at 5:17, just around the time I woke up. And but now it's 95, so dawn effect is working. So just exactly what I told you, that if you get yourself when you first wake up, at least in my case, it'll be lower than if you wait, if you amble around the house and do a few things and you finally get around to testing yourself an hour later after you've woke up. It's going to be higher. That's the way it works for me. So looking at my glucose over the last 6 hours, going back to about 12:30 p.m. or a.m., it looks like I've been in the 80s much of the time. In fact, almost all night long, I've been in the 80s until just recently, right after I woke up, and then suddenly, now I'm at 95. So you don't know that with Mike. At least I didn't, because I didn't wake up and test myself all over the place. I would rarely test myself in the middle of the night at all. But with Charlie, all I have to do is just go back over the record and say, okay, where was I at 5 a.m.? Okay, about an 87, 85, and what about 4 a.m., 83, 81? Looks like the lowest number I can see here is about an 81. That was at 1:07 a.m. And then it kind of bounced up to 90 and then in the upper 80s. So basically 80s throughout the night. And that satisfies me, even though I'm at 95 now. So some of you may say, Dennis, how often do you do these? Well, I do them fairly often. More weeks do I do a 36-hour fast than the weeks where I don't. It's usually just one per week. And I'm a little conflicted about it. Let me say a couple of things about these. First of all, one of the motivations I have is that there's a double benefit for me. As a Christian, we're encouraged to fast. Jesus said, when you fast, so he assumes we will be fasting. So there's some encouragement there spiritually, and I take advantage of these fasting days by doing extra Bible reading and extra praying. And generally, when I will do one of these 36-hour fasts, I'll spend a lot of time in the Gospels. Usually over a Monday, I might spend an hour and a half to 2 hours reading Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, reading about the life and the death and the resurrection of our Lord Jesus. So there is that motivation. I have to confess, I've been rather conflicted about even talking about my fasting, because Jesus said, you don't tell people, you just keep it secret. You don't try to impress people. And believe me, I'm not trying to impress anyone. But you say, well, then why do you fast if Jesus said you shouldn't be, making a big deal about it? Do it secretly. The answer is it has to do with this Beat Diabetes channel. Basically, the reason so many people have found help and deliverance and victory over diabetes through my channel is that I basically share my life. Benedicta sometimes gets on to me. She's a very secretive person. And sometimes I tell way more about myself, about my lifestyle, than she is real happy with. And she's like, Dennis, you don't need to tell everything that you do. And I tell her, sweetie, my life is an open book, and my word to my followers on YouTube is, here I am, come and read me. But not doing it to brag, not doing it to try to make a big deal of myself. But what I'm doing is this. I feel God has called me to share my life, what I eat, what I do not eat, my exercise patterns, my routines, the new food items I find that don't affect my blood sugar, how I test my blood sugar. Basically, I'm saying this is what works for me. I should be a raging diabetic. I should be, but I'm not. And one of the things I sometimes say is, if someone says, are you diabetic? I might say no, but I passed up a wonderful opportunity to be a diabetic, and my numbers do not reflect diabetes. 5.0 A1C is not diabetic. But I could easily be diabetic according to the numbers, and I could have all kinds of issues, terrible arthritis, terrible neuropathy. Who knows, might even be dead if I had not changed my diet. So how did I pass up the opportunity to become a diabetic? By refusing to eat the way my fellow Americans eat. If I ate the way most Americans ate, I would be a severe diabetic. But I'm not even close. And so this YouTube channel is basically saying, here's what I do. Feel free to use and take whatever might work for you. Talk to your doctor. But here's some of the foods I eat. Here's the foods I'll never eat, except maybe on a YouTube demo. And this is how I do it. This is how I roll. And it works for me. And maybe it'll work for you. And we've had hundreds, if not thousands, of people saying, yep, Dennis, it works for me. So I'll check in from time to time throughout the day. And because of the CGM, we'll be able to look back over the last hours. We don't have to depend on an occasional reading. We can just look back over the whole day as we go through it and see how my blood sugar fluctuates. Now, when I talk about a 36-hour fast, I'm not saying I don't ever eat or drink anything. These days, in the old days, I would just simply drink black coffee a couple of times a day. These days, I've kind of modified and mellowed a little bit. And I guess I give the credence to the fact that I'm an old guy. And so I'll put a little bit of heavy whipping cream in my coffee. So technically, you can say, well, that's not a fast. But that's what I do these days. A little bit of cream. I'm about to go make some coffee, some instant coffee, put a little bit of heavy whipping cream in it. And that's what I do. I'll also have some coffee a little bit later when I watch the news, maybe around 9:30. And then I'll have some coffee around 3, and then I'll stop because if I drink coffee too late, it'll keep me up at night. So come with me and we'll check in on my glucose and see how it is being affected by the fact that I'm just eating almost no food, apart from a little coffee and a little bit of heavy whipping cream. That's going to be it for me for today. Until tomorrow morning, maybe around 8:30 in the morning, I'll eat a real meal again. Well, it is past 1 o'clock, and I'm doing just fine. We're going to take a look at my morning numbers in a moment. But I will say this, some people wonder, how in the world can you do that, Dennis? How can you fast for 36 hours? And the answer is, it's pretty much what you get used to. My body expects to fast every so often. So it's not shocked, it's not unusual, and I don't find this strange at all. But it's because I've been doing it for years and years. Now, earlier I talked about the spiritual value of fasting, but there is definitely a diabetic value as well. It seems to do a reset on your blood sugar, and you will find your next few days' blood sugar, or at least I do, is better after a fast than it was before the fast. So I see a benefit. You're going to lose a little bit of weight. It's just a good thing. It works for me. That's about all I can say. So right now, let's get into my morning glucose numbers as they are revealed by my Dexcom Stelo CGM. So as you can see, my latest update has my glucose at 88 milligrams per deciliter. And as we look at the morning glucose, you can see that it has been in the 80s for a while. But by the time you get around 12, we're in the 90s, and then we're up in the mid-90s, and then we're in the upper 90s, and upper 90s, and then we're in the mid-90s again. And that would be around, well, that's 917. So what we're seeing here is that my blood sugar's done pretty well this morning. The coffee doesn't seem to have had too much effect. I think you could maybe point to a little bit of a rise after the coffee, but not much. It's a little past 6:20 or so, and doing fine working on an article. I've been working on an article about the importance of faith and the enemy of faith, and if you follow my Dennis Pollock Bible channel, you'll see that as a devotional probably in the next few weeks. But let's see what my glucose is these days, or this time. And it shows an 88. And if you look at the graph, you find something missing. What's missing? It is spikes. There's just no spikes involved. And of course, that's pretty much true even when I am eating, because I eat such low-carb meals. There just aren't any kind of real spikes. There are rises for sure, just like there's a few little rises here, but right now it's at 88, so 88 is quite good. I'm happy with that. It is around 11:15, and it's about time for this guy to go to bed, but I thought I'd do one last check of my glucose according to the CGM. So let's go to my app. I'm really loving this app. There are some improvements that I would love to see made. It's maybe not perfect, but it's pretty good. So it's telling me that my glucose is at 84 and is steady. And as I look at the graph, I can see that I've been in the 80s for a while. Let's see, 84 now, 83, 82, 84, 82. I'm going in 15-minute segments because that's how it records. 85, 84, 86, 88. So basically, let's see if I can find the last 90. It looks like the last time I was at 90 was 537. So pretty much all evening, I have been in the 80s. And thinking about that, it just makes me realize that's how a normal person should be. But of course, I'm not doing it quite the normal way. I haven't eaten anything except drank some coffee with a little bit of cream in it. So, but a normal person should be in the 80s most of their day. And here I am in the 80s quite a bit of my day, although I've been in the 90s earlier. Okay, it is close to 6 a.m. and I am on my way to the men's Bible study, and we will be studying on God the Father today. I live pretty close to the coffee shop where we meet, so it won't be long. I woke up with an 84, not much evidence of dawn phenomenon yet. My average over yesterday, which was my fasting day, apart from a little coffee and cream, was 90. So that's a pretty good average. I'll have to work out what that would mean as an A1C. But of course, I can't fast every day. That would be ridiculous, and I wouldn't last too long if I tried that. So you got to eat. Still, for one day at least, I gave my pancreas a rest. My metabolic system was rested. My numbers went down, and it seems to be kind of a reset for me. My 36-hour fast is over. I just had breakfast and watched the news with Benedicta and enjoyed my breakfast thoroughly. It was chaffle with some syrup and butter mixed together and some pecans on that, along with an egg and 2 sausage patties. So for me, that's a big meal. Might not be for you, I don't know, but for me, that's a big meal. And I'm quite full. My day yesterday was a good day, and I just believe that I did myself good. I believe it was good for me to fast. If I didn't believe that, I wouldn't do it. So I believe it was good for me spiritually. I believe it was good for me physically and in my health. And that's why I continue to do those 36-hour fasts. No more than one per week, and sometimes I'll skip a week, but they are a pretty frequent part of my life and my dietary routine. So let's take a look one more time at some of my numbers. So right now my glucose is saying 88 and steady. If you look at the graph of the previous evening, I dropped down into the 70s a couple of times, but mostly I was in the 80s. And then I popped into the 90s around 6:30 or so, which means that once I got into that Bible study and I was fully awake and I was drinking some coffee with a little bit of cream, I did bump up about 10 points. And then I had my meal, which bumped me up to about 95, so didn't even go over 100 with that meal of the chaffle and the sausage patties and the eggs, which is mostly a carnivore meal. Did have some pecans there. And then I dropped down after that to 84, and now I'm up to 88. So pretty good deal there. And yesterday, let's go to yesterday. And we'll do 24 hours. So yesterday, I was in the 80s almost all day, dropped into the 70s a couple of times, went up into the 90s this morning, but mostly yesterday I was in the 70s and mostly 80s, and my average was 90 for the whole 24-hour period of yesterday, which is pretty good. You might think, well, it should be lower than that, right, Dennis? I mean, you didn't eat anything at all, save for a little bit of cream with your coffee. Why weren't you at 75 all day? Well, my body knows where its baseline is, and it will try to find that baseline whether I eat or don't eat. Now, I was lower for sure by about 6 or 7 points as an average than I am when I eat, but 90 is a decent number. So I'm satisfied. It was a good day for me, and this is part of my approach to beating diabetes. Do you need more information and inspiration about beating diabetes? The very first line of our description is nearly always a link to our hundreds of videos toward that one subject, how to beat diabetes. Click on that link and start watching these videos. You'll be blessed and I believe greatly helped.